So right now, I'm going to show you the benefits of using the Neptune 3 Maxout modification that we have made. And we're going to show everything from scratch so you can see it in person. So we're going to go up here to calibration and Orca Slicer. We're going to go to more. We're going to do max flow rate. Okay. Keep in mind we're using PETG. Okay. It's an Elegoo specific PETG. It's made for a little bit higher flow than normal. But regardless, we're going to show you how much further you can push the printing with like a PETG, which will save you tons of time compared to, like, say, the stock Neptune 3 Max Hotend assembly. And keep in mind, I use the Hotend assembly also with the CHT high flow nozzles. And I still, even with those nozzles, yes, they did give me much better print speeds, much better volumetric speeds. It still doesn't even compare to how fast I can print with a non-CHT nozzle that comes with the Micro Swiss FlowTech assembly. And keep in mind, I have yet to test it, but you can also purchase the CHT hot ends for the Micro Swiss FlowTech, or I should say the nozzles for the FlowTech assembly, which will flow even better than what the stock FlowTech nozzles will print with. So typically the stock Neptune 3 Max has issues, I would say, with PETG on a stock everything above 14 millimeters a second. It really struggles with that. But I've already done one previous test and I have noted it on my other pages that I post on, whether it's Reddit or YouTube or other things like that, where I've already tested this from 10 millimeters all the way up to 50 millimeters with 1 millimeter steps on the flow rate, just to see where's it going to stop flowing at. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start at the base volumetric flow. We'll start it at, let's say 15, because I know it's going to have no problem there. Okay. So basically what the stock Neptune 3 is capable of originally. And then we're going to stop it at, let's max it out at, let's say, let's go all the way up to 70. Let's just see what happens. No, it might be a little high. Fuck it. We'll go 70. And then we're going to put this at, let's do 2 millimeters a second steps. Okay, so we want this kind of be as fast as possible. See, that's not a very tall print. That's kind of what we're looking for. We're going to do a slice plate. And we have a brim also set up on this by default. So what we're also going to do, okay, keep in mind, those are the different sections. We are going to come over here and I'm going to show you what we're using for temperatures. Okay. So this is a custom setup I have going on here. So we'll go filament. So we're targeting 235C for first and all other layers. We probably could warm this up a little bit more. Let's go with a 240C for first layer, just to make sure it's going to stick really well. We are turning the fans off because if you're doing a small thin wall with PETG, it's going to warp, it's going to shrink, it's going to expand. If you use a cooling fan, and a cooling fan is not really that necessary when you're doing just a single layer, single line wall. So we'll go to save, slice plate, okay. And then we're going to show you how this works here. So we're going to go send it to our printer, upload and print. All right. And look at that, Orca Slicer's already got this pulled up here. We're going to see how much faster the nozzle warms up to 240. See, we're already at 70C and it's just climbing fast. A lot faster than our heat bed can achieve. So I'm just going to go ahead and let this run while this is heating up, doing its thing on the bed, because it's probably going to take a couple minutes for this bed to get hot. I'm going to run you through where I am posting stuff and where you can get these files for this Hotend assembly. So let's come over here. Let's see. I don't remember which one's which. Oh, here we go. So I do a lot of my posts over here. My tag is heavy duty roadside because that's my primary business. This is more of a hobby. But I will usually post my files here in the Elegoo Neptune 3 community, and I also have my own 3D community called 3D Printing Mecca. And I'm trying to build this community up with people that, you know, like aftermarket modifications to their printers, because the whole concept of this is just to add as much support as possible to these older printers so they're not just e-waste, you know, because people want the new features, they want the new abilities of the new printers, but realistically, there's still no printers out in the market that can compete with the 3 Max and 4 Max when it comes to build volume, even though they're still a bed slinger. For the price, at least, unless you're wanting to spend $5,000-$6,000 or more to find something custom or make something from scratch, this is fairly inexpensive. So one thing I want to show you is for this Neptune Maxout adapter, I have the files for sale on colts3d.com. You can just type this in here, Neptune Maxout. So if we were just go up here and type in Neptune Maxout, I'm sure it's the only one that pops up. So you can just click on it. This is for sale. It's $5 for these files, but it comes with basically the hot end adapter and then the shroud that easily mounts to the side of your extruder assembly. And you're going to need to fully disassemble your extruder assembly. I do have detailed instructions, which I will end up linking in the video below. But like I said, I post here. There's also a free file that you can download my files from printables, which is also in the build guide. So if you're to go to either one of these, if you're going to 3D Mecca or the Neptune 3 community, you can just scroll and you will find it in here. So you can find it eventually. Let's see. People are always reposting. Here we go. Neptune Maxout Guide. We can click on this one right here, and it will link you to the files where you can purchase the Micro Swiss Hotend assembly and everything like that. This guide should also be in my 3D printing Mecca page. It gives you basically breakdown instructions what you have to do. This is basically what the picture looks like and how you have to modify the pins. So you are going to have to take off with these 5115 fans. You're going to have to take off like the connectors, and you can just still slide them right on. You basically remove the outer shroud, and then with the probe sensor, because it's extended, you're going to have to take off that cap and roughly bend these 45-degree angle to reconnect it so you have the extra length that you need. But other than that, the heater plugs in the same location. Everything else bolts in the same location, and the shroud is specifically designed where after you mount your hot end cooling fan down here in the center, which you can use the factory hardware that the original head came with, you've got channels over there on the side that you can see that are kind of cut out. Let's see if I can give you, if you can see there's little channels where the wiring will go and it slides in, no issue at all, so you're not pinching the wire against the extruder assembly when you assemble it. You got the mounting points for the 5115 fans on the sides. And like I said, if you join either of these communities, the 3D Printing Mecca or the Elegoo Neptune 3 community, you will see that I have a few posts on like how airflow works and everything like that with these printers. But we're going to come back over here to the Orca slicer and see how close we are. Okay, we're 75C out of 80C. Also, all the files you want or will ever need in regards to setting up the Neptune 3 series of printers up with Klipper are also on my GitHub. The only things you would have to do different essentially would be, because this is all pre-configured for the Neptune Maxes, in the print config files, you would need to change the dimensions, and same thing with the smart probe for the camp settings. But I also have a YouTube video that is also listed on this YouTube page that basically gives you a breakdown of how to do that. So I'm not going to go into that again. This essentially is just a how-to and why you should upgrade to the Micro Swiss Hotend assembly that was initially designed for the Neptune 4 Max, and the benefits of it, adapting it to the Neptune 3, because realistically the Neptune 3 doesn't have anything out there. So what it's doing right now is, I'll pull it up, it's doing smart probing for where it's going to do this print. We can come over here to the height map, and we'll see it populated when it's done. I try to get this done as fast as possible while also not pushing the bed slinging past its limit where it's going to lose its location. So after it's done probing, it's going to purge. As you can see, it's had that hot for a while, so a little bit of PETG oozed out of it. Not going to lie, it's probably not the driest. I've also had the PETG. I dried it a few days ago, but it's been hooked up to this printer ever since. See, here's our bed mesh. Let's see, we'll pull this up. It's purging right now. See, it's not too bad for a bed mesh. Pull it back up. And now it's going to start printing. I had to look over and verify. The first layer looks like it's going to be pretty great. Well, right now it's just printing the brim. So with this version of Klipper I have set up, you can come over here to the macros and use PID tune. You enter the value you want to PID tune, what temp. I recommend doing this basically on a filament basis. So it's like if you're going to print a lot of PETG, you kind of want to do a PID tune for the temperature on your PETG, or PLA or nylon or whatever you're trying to print with. I still have yet to use nylon with this extruder and this hotend assembly setup, mostly because it's abrasive and the nozzle this thing comes with isn't exactly strong enough or hard enough to really deal with those materials, but it's had no issue with PETG so far. I've printed some larger things like gauge cluster brackets and assemblies and things along those lines for the automotive industry. Let's see what we got here. It's still printing its first layer, but I can show you right here. Let's make this a little smaller. So you can see right here that this is the fan blowing over the extruder very close, 100% duty cycle on the 5015 fans, and it does really, really well. It makes it nice, like it never lets the water basically push back into the zone location. And then I've got another one also at 100% duty cycle from a higher zone. Let's see if I can find it. Probably going to be on this page instead. I don't post everything on my 3D printing mecha page just yet. So this right here is flow test 2. That's really high away from what would be considered the print location. But as you can see, the way that nozzle assembly, it has laminate airflow straight down under the nozzle, and it will go down for a pretty significant distance. This one is also showcasing that with a little bit closer zone. And this one right here is obviously like right up on top of it. So basically, I'm doing all this because this is one of my favorite printers I've owned. So I've put a lot of time and dedication into various things for this platform. And I know, honestly, the only reason I went to Klipper instead of using all the Marlin stuff was just the print quality and smoothness you get out of Marlin. You can fine tune things a little bit better on Klipper. And Marlin has a bunch of limitations where it's a little, the seams aren't super ideal. You can't adjust the flow easily without going in into Marlin and burning new firmware. And Klipper is just more user friendly. But this Neptune Maxout Hotend assembly, it will work with Marlin right out of the box, factory configurations and everything. So if you don't want to use Klipper, you don't have to. One thing I'm going to recommend is, see these side mounting points, these two holes. You're going to want to tilt that when it's fully assembled before you fully tighten those screws down, kind of more towards the mounting location on the printer to get that probe closer. So you would kind of tilt it as you have it screwed in and you have it mounted. You kind of just tilt it upwards and push the face of this just a little bit further up, and then tighten it down, which will get that bed probe even closer to the back end. Other than that, if you're using Klipper, the config files I have initially, in a perfect world, that nozzle offset should be pretty high off the bed. So, you won't have any issues with it scraping initially in its base configuration. But it's probably not even going to touch the bed, honestly. It's how far it is, especially with the Marlin stuff. This probe, when it's set up correctly, you should have a pretty good gap, so it'll be safe, and you have to bring this down with the Z offset. Haven't quite gotten around to that first layer of printing yet, but it's working on it. It's still taking its time printing the brim. So now, as you can see, we started off pretty high in the 15, and it's just rocking away. Let me get some other stuff pulled up while it's printing. Let's see if we can do an overlay. While the thing's just rocking it out, we'll come back over here. Like I said, we went pretty aggressive on the settings just to kind of like illustrate how decent this nozzle is. I guess what I can do is try to show you how to slice the files. So let's pull up Cura. So you can use Cura or Orca Slicer. I like both of them. They both have their benefits in different situations. Now, I don't know off the top of my head where I have my files saved. And I feel like Windows is broken lately. There we go. I think I might have it here. No. Nope, that's not the location. I guess we'll just go here, here, and we'll just download them. We go designs, and then download. We go downloads, save. Open that folder. Extract them. And we're going to pull Cura back up. And we will go to the bracket assembly first. So this is exactly kind of what you want to see as you have it set up. Let's see. So we'll go to slice. Let's see if we have the proper settings in it already. Preview. Okay, those are not really the supports we want. So we're going to come over here to support. We're going to go tree support, slice again, see what the angle is set up at. That's pretty aggressive, but it also works out. I mean, that's actually a pretty good little tree support setup. You can, if you want even more improved quality, you can add an interface layer. So go support placement, interface layer, diameter, tip diameter, We're going to go enable support interface. Slice it again. Look at this thing rock. We're just printing with, you know, some high flow PET G, which isn't super high flow. It's just something by Elegoo that they have out of the bag. I don't even know if the bed's going to be able to keep up once it gets into those higher speed zones, but we will see. So that's a little bit better. So that interface layer is going to kind of give you a better print on those overhangs. But this looks pretty good actually. See, the material doesn't really go up inside of there, and it doesn't need to, because the way I have this printed, like there's no supports needed anywhere up there. It'll kind of just print layer by layer at roughly a 45-degree angle, which is great. That's why I like this so much, because I used to use the Hero Me fan setup on it, as you can see in my old print setup. And the things I didn't like about it is I had printed that head out so many times just trying to get it right, where it was like strong and supportive and things like that. And then the mounting points of the original Hero Me for the fans, like they would just vibrate sometimes or rattle, and you'd have to put material between it, like paper or whatever, just to get that rattling noise to go away. And since I have this setup, it's a little bit more narrow. It's lighter than the Hero Me setup. And like I said, this is specifically only for using the Neptune 4 Max Micro Swiss FlowTech Hotend assembly on the Neptune 3 Max for the conversion. So this is essentially what you want it to look like. You don't need a ton of supports in those areas, so this is good to have supports. But like this right here will print in 10 hours, but I want to say this is set up for really, really slow printing. And I'm sure we can speed it up. Yeah, like layer height 0.15. You can go, I would probably go like a 0.2. And then speed, you can probably crank that up to like 60. I would go 50 to 60 on a stock printer. I wouldn't go much higher than that. And you don't necessarily have to make this out of PET G either. It's just a recommendation. So now it's like 8 hours. So it's an 8-hour print with those settings on PET G. A good temperature to print with PET G would typically be like 235 C. You're going to want to use cooling on this, at least 30 to 40. If you're using the 5115 fans already on a Hero Me setup, I would kick it down to like 30 or 40% cooling. But if you're using stock fans, I'd kick it up to about 50 or 60% cooling. So on here, we're using, you know, fan speed, regular fan speed, max fan speed. That's a little high, so we would go down here to like on this probably 30 with these fans because I know how they work. Material, print temp 240, that's honestly perfectly fine. Build plate temperature, you want it around 80 C, that'll make it stick really well. Also keep in mind you want a brim as well, so make sure your brim settings are on. In Cura it would be build plate adhesion, brim everywhere, 6mm wall, and that's usually all you'll need to get a really nice first print out of this thing. So we got that one done. Now we'll show you the other file, which is even easier. So we'll go over here. Let me get it pulled up. Downloads. Let's see, hot end adapter. So this right here is the hot end adapter. It gets recessed into it. You're going to have to pay attention which direction the PTFE tube goes because it is offset. That's not perfectly center, so it lines up. You take the hardware kit, which I've recommended, or you can just use some generalized 2.5mm screws and just screw it through the plastic. That's kind of how this is set up, where you don't really need it on the end. It just kind of self-taps and threads into the plastic itself. So we'll go into slice. Let's go preview. And that looks perfectly acceptable. I wouldn't take anything away from that at all. Like I said, this is a little bit on the slow side for me because this will print faster in 42 minutes. But that's totally up to you. You can fine tune your settings for whatever material you're using to print with. But essentially you take this off, you take out your stock extruder, your stock hot end, which you'll take the 2 bolts out there. You insert this. You're going to have the board off of the back of the printer in order to do this. This thing's just rocking away. I'm not sure what speed we're at yet, but let's take a look. Let's see. So 50% cruise ratio, square corner velocity. So it's showing right here, we're up to 30s. We're 37 roughly in the highest speed zone, 37mm a second for flow. We're touching 37, 38, 38.7 now. And just for the record, like I was saying, there is no way the stock hot end would even come close to this. Honestly, I had trouble with the stock hot end so many times that I was like, you know what, I bought this, the Micro Swiss 4 FlowTech assembly for the 4 Maxout, because I looked at it just visual and I was like, oh, that looks pretty close. I bet it'll work. And then I got it and it just needed a little bit of tweaking to make it fit and work. But I kept having issues with the Neptune 3 Max, the thermistor not reading properly because maybe, you know, I'd probably gotten it a little too hot one time, you know, touching 260s, 270s, printing certain materials with it. So the flow was pretty inconsistent. I wasn't getting accurate readings on it. And I've bought 2 or 3 of these head assemblies from Elegoo on the Amazon page. And I just, nothing seemed right. And I was like, you know, is my motherboard going bad? And as a last ditch effort, I was like, you know what, I'm going to finally spend the time to adapt the Neptune 4 Max Hotend Micro Swiss assembly to it. And I did. I did PID calibrate for everything I wanted to do, and I've had no issues with it. And like I said, the acceleration and flow just of the stock nozzle that comes with the Micro Swiss FlowTech is way better than even what results I was getting with the CHT, the Bondtech CHT nozzles for the stock Neptune 3 Max and 3 Plus assemblies. And don't get me wrong, like just that one nozzle did make a pretty good difference, but it doesn't even compare. I mean, maybe half the speed and efficiency of this new nozzle setup. See, let's see right now. We're touching. Oh, we're at 37 still. I think I might actually have to increase my bed speed limit in order to get this thing to crank up even more. And now it's touching. It's not doing bad actually.